Going live. Greetings in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. I am Andre and joined here by Ed, Fred, Ashley, and Amanda, and we will be reviewing this session about Atlantis, Lemuria, and early kind of tribes of Earth civilizations. All right, and it is from session 2006, February 26. We are the principle known to you as Kuo. We greet you through this instrument in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. It is in this creator's service that we come to you this day. We thank you for the privilege of being called to your circle of seeking. We are most glad to share our thoughts with you on the subject of the tribes of Earth. Okay. Before we begin, we would ask a favor of you. Please listen carefully to what we have to say, using your powers of discrimination in order to decide what is for you and what is not. If something resonates to you, please, by all means, use it. If that which we have to say does not seem helpful to you, we ask you to leave it and move on. Be careful about what you accept into the web of your thinking, feeling, and actions. You create your own universe by what you pay attention to and use. Create the universe that is dear to your heart, that inspires your soul and lifts you until you are soaring, for that is your nature. You need to become passionately engaged and enthusiastic about the creation of which you are a part, and you can do that by the choice of that to which you pay attention. We thank you for this great kindness in listening to us, for it will allow us to speak our thoughts freely. How precious each of you is to us as we rest with you in the circle of your vibrations, and how precious as well is every member of the tribe of humankind of the planet Earth. We thank you for asking about the tribes of Earth. In truth, your question is not one about which we have a great deal of information to share. We can affirm that there were indeed tribes of late second density entities here before that point at which the Earth itself, as a planet, became able to support the kind of vibratory energy field that would be a good environment for a self-aware being such as you. Therefore, if we go back before Lemuria and Atlantis on planet Earth, we are talking about the late second density beings which were striving for third density graduation. They were doing so very successfully at the very end of a long second density period that had moved through geological ages such as your Ice Age and back beyond that quite a ways into your planetary history. These were entities that this entity would call Great Ape Family. These entities were striving towards self-awareness. If you are a person who's owned by a cat or dog, you are aware of the many childlike and human-like qualities that are encouraged within a pet's disposition and character as he or she goes through a life of being noticed, listened to, fed, and offered affection. It changes that second density entity and creates a more obvious likelihood that when such an entity reincarnates, he may have earned the right to choose to incarnate in a third density physical vehicle. Such was the case with these entities of various species of great ape genus. The animals, you would call them that, which were of the second density nature, certainly had bestial natures. They were not conversing as you would with your friends. However, they were developing means of communication with each other, starting with their second density ability to sense into the truth of what is. That is the unique advantage of being a second density entity rather than a third density entity. Second density entities such as the great apes had, and continue to have, a greatly enhanced ability to know the truth. That is, there is not a veil of forgetting between the conscious mind and the reaches of the racial mind, the planetary mind, the archetypical mind, and the creator's mind. All of these unknowable reaches of mind that are sought so eagerly by third density entities are available without effort to the tribes of Earth before third density began to unroll its scroll of history. These entities attempted to deal with each other and did so in a way of second density entities, by creating territories which were theirs and common territories between tribal territories where they could all hunt. Therefore, there were the rudiments of communication, government, and society. There was the attempt to use tools and the attempt to create beautiful things. Above all, there was an overarching and underlying knowledge, we shall not call it faith, we shall call it knowledge, of the oneness of all things, the sacredness of life. There was no question in these entities' minds that they were children of the one Creator. Therefore, there was, in the late second density being that was a member of the tribes of planet Earth in prehistory, every potential for the flowering of the spirit, and every ground laid for the third density planetary experience that was to come. We as a group did not approach such entities in that there was no call, and we are those who move by the rules of free will. The call from entities such as you asked for information concerning did not feel the need to call outside of the web of being that surrounded them all, which was instinctually known to be sacred. Therefore, rather than calling for entities such as we, the call was immediate and moved into the earth, sky and water and the fire, the plants and the animals which shared its environment, and the Creator herself. In late second density, the Creator was seen to be a feminine character, as females give a birth to everything that exists. Our experience with the tribes of Earth, indeed, does begin with Lemuria and Atlantis. Consequently, this is the sum of that about which we speak, concerning those tribes that dance the dance of late second density upon the planet Earth, and prepare the ground for the density of choice that was to come. Alright, guys, what do you think? You're muted, Ed.
Does anyone know anything much about the Rosicrucians?
Not too much.
No? Okay, so there's another thing I've heard lots about before as well. It's not just them that say it, but they're renowned for it. See, they always used to say that basically back before, the further you go back, basically, the more kind of clairvoyant human beings were. And the only way that we managed to survive up until the point of where we got to was because of the fact we could telepathically communicate. That's what made us, into the animals that we were. And then that slowly kind of got replaced by language and got replaced by, what they call is like the shrinking of the etheric body inside us rather than out of us. So we used to be able to communicate that way. Anyway, so what I was saying was that this whole idea that we used to be more connected in a kind of a telepathic way is kind of echoed there, isn't it? Where he's talking about kind of the, everyone's connected to the Creator more. I think that you get that a lot with second density, don't you? Really, that worry about, the philosophical side of life isn't there, is it? In an animal, they don't question the Creator. They know what they are. They know what Creator is. It's only us with the Vader forgetting that lose that. But yeah, that was anyway. This idea that we were more psychic, and we've kind of lost that as time has gone on.
So yeah, that would be confirmed by this particular passage, because basically the second density entities have access to all. They don't have a veil. Yeah.
That's fascinating and very beautiful. I feel like there's a lot we could have learned from them if we still had that particular relationship consciously.
Could you imagine if we still had written history or archaeological, like direct, history from that time period on how different things would look?
From second density? Who would write them?
From the beginnings of third density, from Lemuria.
Yeah, that would be different. But I mean, I guess we have records of it through channeled sources. Right?
Yeah.
Right, but I mean hard evidence, like foundations of cities with carvings on stone pillars and stuff,
Oh, yeah.
That would be cool, but I feel like the heart of it is the teachings they leave behind, which is what is typically channeled, like their way of life, more so than their buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the buildings are, it's something to look at and marvel at, but it stirs the mind to become interested in it.
I see what you mean.
It's when you can read, like, you can read about the Civil War all you want, or the Revolutionary War, you know, how they fought and everything. But until you go and you see a battlefield, or you see a reenactment yourself, or look at the cannons and the what they did, you don't get the scope of it as much too. So, you know, going to the pyramid in Egypt and going there, I'm sure everybody I've talked to that's done it, it's a sometimes life-changing experience just by seeing it and being able to appreciate it firsthand, because everybody knows what a skyscraper looks like and a subway station, whatever, and you can see that and appreciate that for what it is and how much work it is in infrastructure and time and effort to do those things, and then see that. You know, sometimes that's a trigger for a lot of people, you know.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, and you're right. It's that kind of experience that would lead to seeking.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to read? Are you ready to read the next section, Ashley?
Yes, I can read.
Okay. Do you know how to expand the screen yourself, or if you just tap on it, then should magnify?
I just I just went to my laptop instead.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So, are you able to magnify it?
Okay.
I'll read the question and then you'll read the answer. Here.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And I can see.
Oh, good. These second density entities become third density entities that again formed in tribes and behaved as mind-body-spirit complexes. Oh.
We are those of Qo and are aware of your query, my brother. In essence, you are correct. The story, however, is a bit more tangled than it would appear. As third density conditions become prevalent on planet Earth, beings with this body type of the great ape continue to incarnate and live lives that were of a nature of a tribe or clan, seemingly unchanged from second density. However, the light of third density is that light which supports and encourages the development of the spirit complex. The probable course of development of these Earth native entities that were now ensouled as they came into incarnation, but dwelling in these particular bodies, is unknown, for that evolutionary line was interrupted by those who felt it would be helpful to offer the third density entities of planet Earth a much improved physical vehicle, one in which the jaw was manipulated in order that speech was more possible more easily, and one in which an upright posture was more possible. To the adjustments to the body were added adjustments made to the mind complex in order to sharpen mental acuity. This experiment, shall we say, interrupted the normal course of evolution. In a way, it accelerated that evolution by making it far more possible for the body types of what you now are aware of as your human form to do the work of third density entities. They were more able to make tools. They were able to think about the tools they made and to make changes to make them better. However, the natural course of the development of the great ape into third density is one in which peaceful means of resolving disputes is valued almost to the exclusion of open hostility. There is a knowledge, shall we say, that is the carry over from the awareness of late second density of how things are. This territory is for group A, this territory is for group B, and so on. There is a natural tendency in entities with this genetic heritage to find peaceful means of resolving differences of opinion. As the advantages mounted in the newfangled, genetically adjusted human being, this type of being began to feel not at all humble, but rather begin to be filled with the arrogance of that concept that is almost unknown within tribal societies. The feeling of arrogance, that feeling that not only do you have a place in nature, but that you may take whatever place you can defend and make it your own. The changes wrought by entities which were truly innocent of intention to do evil or to wreak negative consequences became that which was judged by the so-called Council of Nine as a disaster. There have been attempts made ever since these genetic adjustments were offered to the tribe of planet Earth's humans to make amends, to rebalance that which was done without awareness of the quite substantially difficult consequences of these changes. May we answer you further, my brother.
All right. Thank you, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what do you guys think of that?
I mean, that's
human arrogance.
Well, go ahead, Ashley. Well, let's let Ashley. Okay.
So,
then, go ahead.
So I'm not a conscious channelings expert, so I haven't read a lot of these. So first time reading it, this is very fascinating, and I had no idea that there was a layer of our existence where we could have continued on in an organic evolution in the forms that we were in, these more ape-type bodies. We could have continued along that track, and it seemed like it was not a bad deal, that we had some inherent predispositions that made us harmonious to Earth and good to each other, just like logically. And then in come our other selves to try to help, and it didn't turn out the way they expected or the way we expected. So that's fascinating. I wonder where that would have gone if we had been, I guess, left alone and continued to evolve in this form, in those forms, and with that kind of collective mind. And we had a third density form, and what would it look like now? What would we be like now? And it's just interesting how those subtle modifications, like now you can make tools, now you can talk, how that introduced this vibration of arrogance, but I feel like it's something else too. It's like stepping into the creator vibration. You can make things now. You can speak things into existence. But because it was forced, because the modifications were forced and they came from this non-harmonious level, that aspect that was introduced to us to make us more creator-esque was not entirely positive as a result. We had the creator upgrades, but at the expense of the natural creator heart mind that we had, which is of service and in harmony with life. So that's what I was thinking. Thank you.
100%. That is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I wonder what we would look like. What would we be like if it hadn't changed us?
So I have some ideas based on my research of this. And basically they said that third density started 75 years ago. And so I went through the genetic history of humanity, and the one big differentiating factor that happened around 75,000 years ago was the rise of L3. L3 mtDNA rose in kind of like Northeast Africa. Anyways, haplogroup L3, 90-something% of humans descend from L3. L1 and L2 are pygmies. So I think that we would have looked more like pygmies and been more like
Really?
pygmies. Yeah. If it was. Mhm.
I've had my DNA analysis, and I am tied to the pygmies. I'm L1. Like,
L1. Wow.
yeah, that's my primary genetic ties. It's nothing else. It's L1. That's so
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can see this map over here. I can try to increase the size of... There. Okay, so you see here L3 started and then it went out and then colonized all the rest. Everyone else is descended from L3. But yeah, that's amazing you're from L1. So you actually... because L1 and L2 were created before 70,000 years ago. See, 70,000 years ago over here. And I don't know what was the... L1 was 130,000 years ago, so that's double before. And then there's L0, 145,000 years ago.
Wow.
Over here. Yeah.
Ashley's the only one among us that's not an alien.
Well, I'm sure that by now, if she's intermixed, you know, like pretty much all in pygmies and such are intermixed with, you know, the alien DNA that L3 got over here in East Africa.
So I wonder how these modifications took place. Did they actually change the DNA to make structural changes to our bodies, or what did they do exactly? Do we not even, are we even able to understand it?
From my reading, they copulated.
Oh.
Yes. So basically, there is an unusual... Sorry, I think I have to talk more quietly. But there's an unusual aspect to reproduction in Homo sapiens, in that it seems that for a long period of our history, we lived in matriarchal societies. And where the female would have many partners simultaneously. And so this is the reason why men have large penises with a large flange. And they thrust for a period of time, like a minute or so, in order to get the sperm of the previous man out before depositing their own sperm. And so there's a much longer sexual duration than in many other species. And the extraterrestrials found this entertaining, and some of them decided to stay because they like the sex.
Okay. Well,
yes. Some of the nine scrubs are quite funny. He says basically, like, you know, that they came here to kind of like set up a whole new race, you know, and they can kind of like, you know, do quite a lot of sex, and yeah, they live for like 1,000 years. So you can do quite a lot of sex in like 1,000 years. You set up like an entire bloodline that changes the planet forever in 1,000 years. You really came here to get that done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
well, you know.
Because yeah, that's how Tom of the Nine said that the Abrahamic race was set up. So you know, all kind of the, you know, Jew bloodline purely come from this one alien that came down, had a really, really good time for like 900 years. Afterwards, we have Jews. Woo-hoo.
Well, our third density lifetime started at around 900 years, and then they gradually went down because of the bellicosity or the violence.
Yeah.
And now they're, you know, where they are now. And so, did we want to continue with the next one? Yeah. Did you? Okay.
This is fascinating.
I'll read another question here. At some point, this second density tribal group of entities, Earth's first third density group, was joined by populations from other third density planets that failed to make a harvest to fourth density. Ra mentioned that 16 other planets had given their populations to Earth when they had their harvest to fourth density, and the populations did not make it to fourth density. So they came to Earth to repeat the cycle. Was this second density tribal group able to keep its identity throughout the third density cycle of Earth to live together and evolve together? I wonder if the second density group of entities that you spoke about was able to evolve on Earth in the third density as a group, or were they assimilated into other groups? Ashley?
We are those. Yeah.
Mhm.
We are those. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I
yes.
muted?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great.
We can hear you.
Muted. Okay. We are those of Quo and are aware of your query, my brother. The second density great ape bodies, when compared with the second density genetically altered bodies that were available for use in the natural flow of the reproductive cycle, were seen by those entities who were coming into third density Earth and taking form to complete their third density cycle to be the model which was more highly developed and easier to use, to the extent that the second density bodies did not receive ensouled beings and simply reverted to being second density animals carrying second density souls, or rather mind-body complexes, as this instrument would call them, to differentiate them from mind-body-spirit complexes, which are the ensouled third density type. May we answer you further, my brother?
That's a complicated
I
one.
may have to read that
Yeah.
again. What?
Yeah.
I may
So
have to read this again.
So, the second density grade 8 bodies, when compared with the second density genetically altered bodies that were available for use in the natural flow of the reproductive cycle, were seen by those entities who were coming into third density Earth and taking form to complete the third density cycle to be the model which was more highly developed and easier to use. Okay, so basically the modified ones, the genetically modified ones, were the ones that were preferred by the souls coming from those planets that failed to harvest. And so there was actually, to the extent that the second density bodies did not receive ensouled beings and simply reverted to second density animals. And so
So they were empty.
the ungenetically modified humans didn't get third density souls. And so they remained
Wow.
animals. And obviously, that would kind of explain why Homo sapiens kind of displaced everybody else, because they didn't even have third density souls apparently.
And it sounds like their opportunity might have been taken from the influx of all of these other souls that had to restart. Okay.
That's probably partly why it was considered to be a disaster by the council, because it bumped them out of it. It completely destroyed the chances of the naturally occurring second density entities to enter their third density cycle by just blowing them out of the water.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like all of these other groups, Neanderthal, Denisovians, Erectus, basically all got taken out of the genes chain. I mean,
that's the case. Why let anybody come here, though? Why let anyone reincarnate here if that was going to be the case?
Well, they didn't know that. I don't think they knew that, hey, we're going to come in and displace the second densities on their way into third. They didn't know.
They were just taking advantage of it. Hey, that looks like a good third density host body. I'm going to incarnate into that one.
Yeah, I think they're talking about the entities. I don't think they're talking about the souls, are they?
Yeah.
Because if it was a
They're talking
second
about the
density
bodies.
body,
Yeah.
then it wouldn't be able to have a third density soul, would it? Like consciousness, So it would just revert back. But I don't think that human beings were essentially robbed of the opportunity.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it was.
I don't think that's what it means.
no, not. Well, if there were a portion who would have experienced third density bodies and vehicles and they weren't able to, then in a way they didn't get that opportunity to become human in the sense that we have now. So there's some that didn't. That's why there's still animals running around, I imagine.
But you could say that without the genetic modifications, we weren't really harvestable third density anyway. Then,
But from the reading, it looked like we did have third density vehicles. We did have a society in these ape type bodies that possessed intelligence, and they were on the track of evolution. So we did have the third density form. It didn't look like, we weren't hairless and probably not as pretty, but we had a society and were intelligent, but then modifications were made. But it says that it was a third density vehicle. And
Yeah, because what was they said was we were on our way to naturally coming to peaceful resolve without any sort of warlike behavior. But once the changes were made, then we became arrogant, and that's when the warlike behavior began.
yeah, there
I
was
don't know. Cause didn't Ra say that we were always going to be a bit warlike because we have thumbs?
Well, yeah, after all that shit.
It's amazing what thumbs can do, huh?
Yeah, you know. But then that was part of the choice, right? Like
For sure.
Our son's positively polarized. It wants us to be nice. So it gave us thumbs so that we had the choice to be horrible. But it doesn't want us to be.
So yeah,
That's why I'm surprised that the Nine let anyone do anything like this anyway. It just seems like silly. How did any of this happen to us?
so yeah, so there was Homo erectus and Homo neanderthalis alive at the time, but people were like, no, I want to incarnate in Homo sapiens.
I mean, I get it, but there were some things that were overlooked as far as some internal things. This is fascinating. Oh, I'm really enjoying this.
Glad you like it.
This transcript here.
Here there was. I've read one civilization called Ur that was highly evolved before the Atlantean and Lemurian times. Do you have any insights or information on this civilization?
We are those of Quo and are aware of your query, my brother. We find that our only awareness of the civilization, which you call is that in this instrument's mind. In this instrument's mind, there is the information that this was an entity or tribe of people in the Middle East. This, however, to the best of our understanding, was a third density civilization and society that predated the height of, say, the Egyptians, with which this instrument is familiar, that being the Egypt of Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, and Amenhotep. It did not predate the third density. If there was an advanced civilization on Earth before third density, we are not aware of it, and we simply cannot share any information on that subject. We are sorry, my brother, for our lack of information. We thank this group and this instrument for the blessing of companionship and the privilege of sharing the beauty of your beings. It has been a pleasure. We are those of Quo, and we leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. May the oneness of all that is penetrate your isolation within the illusion. May you know, as the early tribes knew, and as you shall know in fourth density once again, by faith alone, that all is one, and that you are a perfect part of the perfect dance that will unfold every mystery to you as you move through the steps that lead to infinity and eternity. Adonai, Adonai, we are those of Quo.
All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for all those theorizers before Lemuria, there was nothing.
Yeah. I didn't hear much about your or
Yeah. Well, Ur is
It's in the Bible.
capital of Babylon.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
It's
so
a Sumerian city. Yeah.
definitely then didn't predate Lemuria.
No,
Then.
no,
No.
no. It predated Egypt, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, Mesopotamia.
Yeah, yeah. It's where Abraham was born
Okay.
in the Bible, and then he traveled up to wherever Israel is over there in the corner or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so that was that session. Wow, I didn't realize it was such a short session. Yeah.
But it packs so much into this
Mm,
one session.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why it was short.
yeah, yeah. I can try and find another one. Since we still got another hour here, I'll try to find something on the same theme.
So,
Go ahead. You guys talk for now.
Atlantis and Lemuria are two totally different places, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
Or were they at different times or the same time?
I'm gonna. They were Lemuria first,
Lemuria.
and then Atlantis.
Yes.
2017 0226. Wow, that's interesting. This was on 0226, and in 2017 they came back to the topic.
Hmm.
All right. So here, I don't know if it's going to be in the first one, so we're just going to skip to... okay, I'll ask the question here. Thank you for asking, if that answered my question. I think there was a misunderstanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong. My question wasn't about the free will of fourth density inhabitants being affected when third density cycles again. Rather, my question was about the free will of the third density inhabitants being affected when they encounter the artifacts and remnants of our own global civilization. By what you just said, it may be tens of millions of years before third density cycles again, in which case Earth will have erased or removed much of our history, but we presently can go back many hundreds of millions, even billions of years in our archaeological record. So the question being, when the new third density cycle activates, and there are new third density beings who become sophisticated enough at least to look into the archaeological record, how does that affect their free will to learn of a global civilization that no longer exists?
I am Quo, and we are again with this instrument. The traces, as you might call them, of past civilizations are, as you have noted, easily erased by the sands of time. We ask you to contemplate the mystery of past civilizations upon your own planet, the land of Lemuria being one, the land of Atlantis being another. These were great civilizations that have vanished almost without a trace and are mostly known through legends, even though there have been some who have assiduously searched for these traces, having been alerted by the legends. Now, there are some traces of earlier civilizations currently upon your planet. We call your attention to the statues on Easter Island that are an early remnant of interactions between an earthly population and another earthly source. And so these remnants may, in fact, be in place, and they will be seen as a source of possible mystery, but in general, their presence does not greatly interfere with the free will of those who are learning the lessons of third density, uppermost in importance of which is the making of the choice. So it may be possible that at the latter end of its master cycle of development, a civilization may become aware of traces upon its planet of earlier civilizations. These, in general, do not constitute abrogations of free will in any significant way. I am Quo, and at this time we would transfer the contact back to the one known as Jim.
Yeah.
So wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. So Easter
What
Island
do they mean?
is Lemuria. Lemuria is because it was before Atlantis, earlier civilization.
Hmm.
So basically,
Yes.
Lemuria was in the Pacific, and then I think from Dolores Cannon I read that, or maybe it was cool. There was some aliens that had come, and they were on the other side in like the Atlantic, and they were like playing around with the magnetic grid or something, and then they tweaked something accidentally, and Lemuria sank. Uh, so the Lemurians got the short stick there. But one of the things that remained was Easter Island. And so the Lemurians actually stayed living on Easter Island in the pine food forest that was there until the arrival of the Polynesians, who arrived and ripped out their hearts and ate them. So it was a brutal end to the Easter Islanders, but that's how it was.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So then who built the Easter Island heads?
The Lemurian civilization. And
it wasn't the Polynesians?
well, the Polynesians added to them. So apparently, what these various transcripts say is that at least some of those original heads were from the original Lemurians, but then the Polynesians began copying them and made their own. Mm-hmm. So there's both. Like they says, that are an early remnant between an earthly population and another earthly source. So the Polynesians and the Lemurians. At least that's how I read it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so did you guys want another session on Lemuria or Atlantis? Yeah. I mean,
Sure. Unless you have something else that piques your...
No, it's just we started on a theme today.
Oh, okay.
So we might as well continue.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah. Let me see which sessions have more than one on Atlantis. Here, 2009 has at least 3 quotes on Atlantis. Oh. 2009, what was it? 0120. All right. Okay, Jim, this is T's question. I came across a great book called Cosmos, written by Carl Sagan. It describes the intelligence of whales vividly, and also describes the cruel behavior of mankind towards them and dolphins. In brief, Sagan says dolphins and whales are telepathic, self-conscious beings, and their spiritual level is even higher than that of mankind, and that their original homeland is Earth since eons ago. Meanwhile, in our LLO study group in Taipei, we just read session number 90, and rather talked about the supposition that opposable thumbs, and that it seems to be one of the key factors contributing to mankind's warring tendencies. My main question is, how may we learn from whales and dolphins on a steady daily basis? Is it imperative that we should learn to communicate with dolphins and whales? If so, will Ko teach us how to communicate with them?
We are those known to you as the principle of Quo. Greetings in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator, in whose service we come to you this evening. We wish to thank this sitting circle, and especially the one known as T, for calling us to your circle of seeking. We are very happy to join you for this session of working and to talk with you concerning the whales and dolphins of your oceans. However, as always, we would first request of you that you use your discrimination as you listen to or read these words, taking those thoughts which are resonant to you and are helpful, and leaving the rest behind. We would greatly appreciate your doing this, as it allows us the freedom to offer our opinions without being concerned that we shall trespass upon your sacred, spiritual process or infringe on your free will. We thank you for this consideration. Just as your species has had its evolution interrupted by genetic manipulation many thousands of your years in the past, so has the evolution of those known to you as dolphins and whales and other cetaceans, such as porpoises, been interrupted, not by those from elsewhere than your planet, but by those on the island continent you have called Atlantis. The consciousness of these mammals was enhanced by the genetic manipulation which caused the so-called human and the so-called cetacean to be bonded and blended and unified into that which had every appearance of being a cetacean, yet that which now possessed a spirit complex of third density level. Thusly, the natural process of reproduction gradually invested all of these species with third density consciousness. Consequently, you and the whales and dolphins are indeed brothers, moving through the third density major cycle of 76,000 or so of your years. The necessity to engage in a dialogue between humans and dolphins, humans and whales, and humans and porpoises is attractive and compelling to many of your scientists who grasp the unusual intelligence of these ocean-going mammals. Perhaps we may say that the best way to learn from the cetaceans of your planet is to imagine how you might experience third density if your field of endeavor were limited to those activities which could be accomplished without the use of hands with the opposable thumbs, which the one known as T mentioned in his query. What would it be like to have a long life in which there were no jobs necessary in order to pay bills, where there were no resources to guard or territory to defend? How would your life be different if you were free to choose what dreams and visions with which you wish to occupy yourself, what meditations in which you wish to encompass yourself, what contemplation you wish to enjoy, not only for an hour or a few minutes, but also for all your waking hours for an entire life? If your joy was the dance of harmony with the elements, the dance of fellowship with those of your kind, and the dance of the mated family with the mated parents' children, how would you be different than you are today? How would the environment of leisure and ease and rhythm affect you? How would the lack of necessity for creating and using tools affect you? It is clear that the changes would be profound. For in most human lives, the pace of life revolves around the necessity for doing some sort of useful work. That is, useful as defined by those who would hire you to do that work in order to barter your time for the emolument received. This emolument is necessary so that you may buy for you and your family food to eat, a roof over your heads, warmth in the winter, coolness in the summer, and clothing to create a modest appearance and cover the bareness of your physical form. There are many gadgets which your people find necessary or desirable. These too must be purchased with the money made from your work. Only a very few humans are able to go through their incarnations without their consciousness being saturated with the hurry and the clangor of what this instrument would call the daily grind. That which you eat must be prepared, and then after it is eaten, the detritus must be cleared away, and this takes your time. The roof which is over your head must be maintained. The soil, dust, and other untidiness must be swept and dusted and scrubbed. Indeed, even your natural environment, which you call your lawn, has come to be that which must be maintained and not allowed to grow naturally. And so more time, more energy, more of your money are spent in creating for yourself the atmosphere that you prefer. Your world is full of limits. On this side is your property, on the other, someone else's. In your closet are your clothes, not someone else's. You spend a good deal of your time amassing your stockpile of useful and desirable items, and these too must be maintained. Batteries need changing, power cords must be found, the list goes on and on. This is in stark contrast to your brothers and sisters who are able to ride freely through the ever changing waters where food is plentiful and is found with no discernible effort, where all waters are acceptable in temperature, where there is no money to make and there are no goods to buy. There is nothing to store up against a harsh winter or old age. There is only the air to breathe, the water in which to swim, companionship, and the dreams, meditations, and contemplations of all the years of life. What can you learn from the contemplation of these differences, my brother? It was the choice of those Atlanteans who volunteered for the experiments in genetics to choose these beautiful animals. The politics of their home in Atlantis seemed to them to be questionable in polarity, and so it seemed desirable to them, therefore, to use their technology to embark upon a great adventure. These, then, who swim the seas of your time are the descendants of the philosophers and sages who saw a better way to move through the spiritual evolution of third density, choosing not so much service to others as a refusal to live in service to self. May we ask if there is a follow-up to this query, my brother? We are those of Quo.
Wow.
Wow, that was beautiful. Beautiful.
That's cool.
And I feel like.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, it just my first time reading it, I misunderstood it. I thought that the Kedah cetaceans gained third density at the same time as humanity, but now reading it again, I realized it was the Atlanteans that joined the 76,000 cycle through the dolphins.
So am I correct in understanding that there's a branch of Atlanteans that fuse themselves with the cetaceans to continue a stream of evolution in 3D that's uniquely aquatic?
Yes.
Is that
so? They basically merged with some pre-dolphins or proto-dolphins to become dolphins. Like, dolphins have the largest brain-to-body ratio of any animal on the planet, including whales and all those other ones. So it's believable to me. Yeah.
For sure. Oh my goodness, that's. Wow. I didn't know that much about it.
Yeah.
Like wow.
And
I mean,
the Atlanteans had very advanced crystal technology, and they used it for genetic manipulation and creating human-animal hybrids. And so this was right up their alley. They just created a human-animal hybrid that was perfectly suited for the ocean. And it didn't look human anymore. It was a dolphin.
Brilliant. I have such a connection with dolphins in the physical and metaphysical sense. Like, I've gone on a few dolphin watching tours, like the ones put together by the aquarium that, they follow the rules so they don't upset the dolphins. We're at a distance. And literally every time I get into a meditative state and project to them, that's when they come closer and closer. And they'll come up out of the water and look me in the eye and then play and splash around. You can just feel and see the intelligence. Like, I have so much love and respect for them. And this makes sense as to why there's such a kinship between humans and the whales and dolphins and octopuses. I don't know if you have kept up with, like, I think there's some area in Europe where it's a law that they cannot eat or kill octopuses because, or octopi, I don't know the plural.
Octopi, yeah.
Okay, octopi, because they are highly intelligent and they have feelings and they recognize faces and they play and they think, and it's been confirmed. Like, I wonder, they're probably part Atlantean too.
I haven't come across that in any
Me either. I'm just
channeling, but
speculating.
what I do know is that octopi are very, very simple creatures, and I think that may actually be why they are so lifelike, because they're such good channels of the infinite creator. They actually only have 2 neurons in an octopus.
What?
Yeah, there's only 2 neurons in their head, but they're like in their brain, but then their nervous system goes all throughout their body.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a documentary that I saw some while back. Really, really awesome. I have a great love for octopi. It's called My Octopus Teacher.
I've heard of that. Yes.
It is a phenomenal documentary. This guy followed an octopus around every day for a year and studied it. And but yeah, the dolphin thing. So how? I don't even know how to ask this. How? Oh, is this maybe why it's illegal in the United States? I don't know, Andre, you're in Canada, but it's illegal in the U.S. to attempt to communicate with dolphins and whales.
I've heard about that.
That's unique to America craziness.
But why? Why specifically dolphins and whales? Do they know something we don't?
I don't know. I have a lot of conspiracy theories, but I just have a very low opinion of America in general. So, not gonna.
Yeah, I understand. There's a lot of susness that can and has and does occur here. I mean, they also tried to ban CE5 as well. I don't know if you know about that. The U.S. tried to ban entering into a meditative state to reach stellar civilizations as well, but that didn't go through. That didn't work. But actually,
how do you enforce something like that?
That's why I was laughing, because a lot of people were afraid in the CE5 community. It fell through, because how do you control someone's brain without revealing that we have the technology? But yeah, I mean, that they also try to stop dolphin assisted births as well. Communicating with them, I think it has to do with like this understanding that humans will evolve very rapidly in a positive direction if we can make these connections telepathically and at the heart center with our stellar / earthbound aquatic brethren. They're remnants, and they probably hold the memory of the Atlanteans. They are Atlanteans, which is extremely fascinating to think about. It's all about curbing that evolution. But wow.
Yes, you're completely right. Like, I think even the Confederation has spoken that the U.S. is basically the kind of reincarnation, if you will, of the Roman Empire, and they are heavily under the influence of the space pirates, who just want fear, anger, control, and so they don't like anything about forgiveness, love, or kindness. And that may be why they're making such laws.
Yeah, it also shows that, because this wasn't going on 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it also shows the level of desperation on that side, because despite everything that has been done, humanity is still evolving, still trucking along that positively polarized path, we're still having awakenings. We're still being contacted by benevolent civilizations. There's still all of this awakening going on, no matter what they do. They mess with the food, they mess with the water, they mess with technology, they do all these things, and humans are still moving forward. So it's just showing desperation. Don't you talk to those dolphins. Don't you do it.
Don't talk to those ETs.
Yeah. It's like,
they might tell you to be nice to each other.
They're not even trying to hide the desperation to keep us. It's like, we have to stop this. They're moving too fast, you know, which is, it proves that things are going in the right direction. Yeah.
Ed, you have your hand up. You want to say something?
Okay, so I've got loads of stuff to say. I completely agree about how, like, you know, human beings, we're all good. Deep down we are. It doesn't matter how much the elite want to be horrible and try and put us against each other. We're all good. They can't change that.
Yeah.
We want to chat to dolphins, we want to chat to ETs. They can't stop that. You know, we're going to keep going. You're totally right, and it's beautifully said. Okay, back to dolphins. Loads of dolphin stuff. Oh, quickly, octopus as well. You know that octopuses and octopi are one of the chief things that people see as their guides when they do DMT. Huge, across the board. So many different people find that their guide is an octopus. Odd. Anyway, so back to dolphins. Right, so a few things about dolphins. One, I'm really glad that we get the opportunity to chat about dolphins because my girlfriend really hates dolphins. So if I was to bring them up, you know, she'd be really angry at me and throwing stuff. So really glad I can just chat about dolphins and don't have to worry about any kind of, you know, fear part of it. So, one, that Mao Chazadek sacred geometry thing. Yeah, he talks about this tribe called the Dogons, and they're like one of the oldest. They're one of they're like some tribe in East Africa or something like this. But they got when they found them, they had some cave or something that's got super old like you know, cave paintings on it that's got all like star maps. It's got literally like stuff they can't know. Do you know what I mean? Like full star maps of this of different star systems, and they've got this incredible creation epic, or not creation epic, but story of where all this information came from. Yeah, and basically, apparently, a spaceship came down, it cut a hole in the ground, and some dolphins jumped in the hole, and they were like space dolphins, and they like swam over, and they like started chatting to the you know, people back then, and they're the ones that gave them all this information. Awesome, space dolphins, yay! Anyway, that story is also another creation epic in South America, other side of the planet. You know, Africa, South America, completely different, totally different region, whatever else. Basically, exactly the same story. Dolphins turning up in spaceships. Mad. So, moving on from that. Tom of the Nine. He seems to be coming up a lot tonight. They even mentioned the Nine twice. It's been really weird. But he said that dolphins are basically the main line of defense that Earth has got. So their main job, what they're swimming around, having fun, like Chloe said, is basically creating like a psychic barrier that protects her from any incoming psychic attack or any incoming alien attack. If some alien wants to come and wants to come and take over Earth, they want to come down and to the full density, they can do or whatever. The main thing that's going to stop them is the dolphin brains that will just like completely mess them up, like just create illusions. And like any entity that wanted to come here and mess us up, they couldn't. There's no way the dolphins would stop them dead. All right, the dolphins are our main protection. Space would, because dolphins are so super psychic. Rather cool dolphin stuff. There's a book called The Tale of the Golden Dolphin, or the myth of the golden dolphin, or something like that, and it is channeled work from a dolphin. So this dolphin channeled to a guy and told them the history of dolphins and the myth of the golden dolphin, who apparently is the same golden dolphin that sat down and chatted to Plato in one of his things. What else have I got
Wow.
about dolphins? So much stuff about dolphins. Okay, so just about on being a dolphin, yeah, on the what dolphins
The
life
brain
like.
weights.
You know that dolphins are the only other animal other than humans, yeah, that have sex for fun. No other animal
Yeah,
does it. They've all got some kind of class structure of why they would do that. But just to have fun and just, dolphins,
The chimpanzees are.
species that do it. No. They would always do it in some kind of family or mating based relationship. Dolphins are literally just be like, yeah, come on, let's go do that, and swim away from each other, and never speak again, like one night stands, like completely. Also, there's the other thing: dolphins and pufferfish. Have you seen this thing with the pufferfish?
What's the thing with
The
the
dolphins,
oh, is that
they'll get a pufferfish, and they'll just bite it ever so slightly, so it puffs up and it gets all the poison, and then they'll get a little tiny bit of poison in their mouth, and then pass it to the next dolphin. So the next dolphin will give it a little squeeze, pass it to the next dolphin, give it a little squeeze, then they'll just get trashed, and they'll just swim off on their face, swimming around all over the place, with these little pufferfish swimming off like, fucking hell, what just happened?
I don't know.
I,
Hi, dolphins.
That's so
I
confusing.
know exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about, Ed. Yeah, they do that.
They do that, seriously.
I
Dolphins
think
getting high on pufferfish.
there's
And they're one of
something.
the only animals too that'll kill something for fun too. Because I've seen video where a bunch of porpoises went up a river and they caught an anaconda and they drowned it and were playing with it like a rope toy.
Well, dolphins do
Although,
play. Yeah.
yeah, dolphins do like to hunt evil things too. Also, but dolphins have actually got quite fucked up things in their kind of societies and that. Like if two dolphins get pissed off at one another, yeah, instead of attacking each other and fighting each other, they'll swim away from each other and then they'll both go and attack each other's children.
Wow.
Sounds
What
kind of human to me.
Yeah, that sounds like something like.
So-
What a weird
Sounds
way to
kinda
keep law and order.
Yeah,
You know,
it's kind of weird.
don't fuck with me, or keep an eye on your kids. That's
Yeah.
yeah, and
that is a weird way to live. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it makes sense though, because then it gives a different weight to the act of fighting with your brother. Because there's some things that people just get into fights just without thinking about the consequences of what they're saying or their emotions, because they don't have any real weight to it. It's like, I'm just going to spew my emotional poison, get whatever I got to get out, and that's it. I'm not thinking about anything. But what if, let's say, that was the way it was with humans? What if whenever we had a fight with each other, or it's all about perception. So if we had the perception that we were having a fight or didn't like something or didn't like one another, but we knew that if we acted on that negativity and that aggression and that violence, that those we love could be lost or harmed. Well, that takes the act of aggression and bellicosity and fighting to a different level. I think if that was the norm for us, then people would be a lot more thoughtful and considerate before engaging in the vibration of conflict. But there's still this element of like, oh, it's okay, it's no big deal, I'll just get out what I got to get out and move on. Or there's this thought of I'm in the right, which comes from that arrogance, because there's no blood on the line. But what if there was? Then it would change the whole dynamics of our communication. So for the dolphins, I don't see it as something like strange and evil, but so much as a very logical way of ensuring that they take conflict very seriously. And most likely, I'm sure that rule or law has kept a lot of fights from happening.
So, we actually have a very relevant question here. We can segue into the next one.
Okay.
So, second question is, according to Raw Session 90, our logos seem to be in favor of bipedal monkey physical body. If so, then how come dolphins and whales seem to get the upper hand over mankind in spiritual development. It seems they don't have the heavy veil of forgetting we do. Why is that?
We are those of Quo, and are aware of your query, my brother. The one infinite creator, my brother, was not responsible for choosing the bipedal monkey or great ape over any other species. Rather, it was the social memory complex known as Yahweh who felt that this form would be a very efficient one for exploring the question of polarity. The Creator is utterly willing for any species to achieve a third density level of awareness and to take on, therefore, the spirit complex as a portion of the self. The potential of intelligence and insight in humans, the descendants of great apes, and in cetaceans, those who originally were land animals but evolved into sea-going animals, is roughly the same, the ratio of brain size to body size being similar. However, the human species has become increasingly distracted from the deeper levels of contemplation, meditation, imagination, insight, and dreaming. The consciousness that is common to both species has been greatly interrupted by the intellect of the human species, which has more and more, as your centuries have rolled by, become involved in making choices, none of which bear upon spiritual questions. Consequently, the great blessing and resource of the frontal lobes of your brains is not used. There is no concerted effort to develop and learn the use of these frontal lobes. The process of achieving connection with this part of the brain is not that which is widely taught. This instrument would say that the human species has shot itself in the foot. It has turned its back upon a great spiritual resource, that which is a great enhancer of the consciousness that is the gift of the Creator to all species in third density, what they have in common. That is the same for all. However, humans have chosen to continue to develop their ability to use tools, make connections, and find ways to do things in the arena of the world with its many gadgets, its many machines, its more and more sophisticated electronics. The spiritual aspect of those frontal lobes has given away to the sharpening and ever more complex use of the intellect. That part of the mind which is different for each entity, that part of the mind which is not liable to find connections between self and other self. Consequently, humans have locked themselves into isolated pockets of awareness that begin and end with the area between left ear to right ear and top of the head to the bottom of the brain. Humans have done a marvelous job of developing the possibilities of intellectual thought, while they have left carelessly neglected and for the most part abandoned the deeper realms of insight, meditation, and contemplation, those activities that connect the frontal lobes with the rest of the brain. You have not had the choice of those sages from Atlantis. You do not have freedom to choose the environment of land and the opposable thumb, or the water that goes on forever with no boundaries and no limits to entrain the mind and shut it down. Therefore, it may well seem that the whales and dolphins have more wisdom than their human counterparts. However, their and your resources are the same. It is the environmental difference that has shaped the way the two species have used third density to make their choice of polarity. May we answer you further, my brother. We are those of Quo. So it's the frontal lobes being neglected that is responsible for a lot of this seeming disparity between our spiritual development and theirs.
That's right. Yeah, I'm gonna ask what.
Okay, right. So I'm just going to jump in here.
Go ahead.
With a little bit of so I have dyslexia. One of the things that is a hallmark of dyslexia is that essentially you have problems shuffling information from the bit that kind of pulls it all in to the areas of the back of the side of the cortex of the brain that essentially store the information. What an A means, what a B means, what a 1 means, what a 2 means. You know, how to spell this, how to spell that. The abstracts that attach to what those things mean. Now, the way that dyslexics get around this is they do most of their processing in the prefrontal lobes.
Wait, say that again.
So wait,
The
what's
prefrontal cortex.
so what isn't working?
So in dyslexia, yeah, it's the shuttling system. So you take the information in, yeah, but then you have to move that information to a part of the brain that say knows what A is, and knows what B is, or knows what a 1 is or a 2. Yeah, you then have to have an abstract form where you understand what that A is, and all of the words that have A in it, and all the sounds and the phonetics that are linked to A, yeah, are then attached to that kind of. Anyway, in the dyslexic brain, shuttling that information, you know, to the bit that says what A is quite difficult to do. It takes time. So the way dyslexics get past it is they do all of the processing in the prefrontal lobes, just in the temporal lobes at the front. So my point is, could that be pre-incarnated choice? Could dyslexia be an actual condition we are giving ourselves pre-incarnatively so that we are forced to just use this bit at the front that is spiritual as fuck and leave all the rest of the silly cortexes and storing information to the bloody morons that want to stay in third density? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's kind of blowing my mind a bit. Anyway, crack on as you were, people. Love you.
Wow. That makes sense. That seems like a logical pre-incarnative choice by the mind-body-spirit totality to help induce a path more conducive to choosing the spiritual and the intuitive and the insight and contemplation based.
Yeah, especially if you've had trouble with it in previous incarnations, then you would make that choice for sure. Yeah, I know there's like there's a give and a take or a balance to say learning disability or challenge, in terms of that then you actually have to interact with someone and have them teach you. You know, like I know for my first son, he was reading at 3 years old. You know, we didn't really have to teach him very much. He all just figured it out on his own. He's like a super genius. But with our second child, we actually had to teach him how to read. And then that actually requires us, and he was a little dyslexic. And so he has to put in more effort to it, but we also get to engage with him more. And so it's a different dynamic. And, you know, maybe he needs that. Because he can be kind of bossy, so you know, maybe if he didn't need us and he was super bossy, that could lead to a very narrow line to the service to self path. But because he actually needs other people, that can leave the room more open for service to others path, because there's a give and a take, you know.
That definitely helped me.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Because, you know, like I spoke about before, you know, my past life, you know, the power-hungry Nazi guy, you know, yeah, I think a large chunk of the reasons that I've had such, you know, the anxiety, you know, I feel the anxiety is because of you know, the guilt he felt when he died. But, you know, the ADHD and the dyslexia being there so that my intellect was still good, it was still there, but being held back in all those ways meant I had to rely on other people, like you said, meant I had to kind of take a lot longer to understand my emotions and understand these other things, you know, so that I could then, you know, take that time and have those reasons to have the service to others' path, rather than my previous incarnations, where they tried to do exactly the same thing that I'm trying to do, you know, scientifically and metaphysically understand this stuff, but yeah, that just led them to want to be power hungry you know, Nazis. I don't want to be an angry Nazi.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
for sure, for sure. I know both my kids, you know, we explained to them about service to others and service to self, and at some point they both chose, you know, service to others. You know, first one and then the other when he was old enough. And yeah, so it's good. Here, the frontal cortex, or the prefrontal cortex, critical part of the human brain that's deeply involved in higher cognitive functions, decision making, and modulation of social behavior. Functions, executive function, emotional.
Can I just say,
regulation.
right, that
Yeah.
right there is exactly why I'm so good at like verbal reasoning. You know, I can talk my way through anything. I can like, you know, blah 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 blah, blah just rolls out. But you ask me to write any of that down. You know, it collapses like a house of cards. But that's exactly why. That's the bit of the brain that I use.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the other side of that is that it also controls, like you were about to say, executive function, and that's where the ADHD comes in. You know, when I can't do things, it all just collapses because that's the only bit of the brain I have to actually do anything with.
Yeah, well, it also helps with emotional regulation and social behavior.
That's why I'm so great with my emotional, my compassion and my understanding and my connection to others, my wanting to help and wanting to be there, and all of those other beautiful things that I love about me. The emotional, like, I think one of my emotional my educational psychologist things. I think I'm like the top like 10% of the world for emotional intelligence, like stupidly off the chart. Like I can just like feel people. Do you know what I mean? But
Social behavior,
fair,
yeah.
I think that just
Understanding and
that just
navigating
means being
social
confused a lot.
interactions. Yep. And then speech and
Well, this is
movement,
it,
which is what you were saying.
there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that I can do very, very well. But as soon as it turns to taking that stuff and converting it into an abstract, as in, you know, the what does an A mean? How do you spell this? Then it just falls apart. Like I don't bloody know. That means nothing. It's not spiritually relevant. Yeah.
Here, I'm asking ChatGPT about what you were saying about the frontal cortex there. Relationship between dyslexia and brain activity in the frontal cortex, topic of ongoing research. Difficulties with accurate and or fluent word recognition, poor spelling, decoding abilities. Important to note that the brain functions involved in reading are complex, involve multiple regions. Shown may exhibit different patterns of brain activity compared to non-dyslexics, especially in reading tests. Suggests that dyslexics rely more on frontal cortex among other brain regions. Yeah, is involved in executive functions such as working memory, attention, and problem solving, which dyslexic individuals might engage more to compensate for the difficulties they experience when reading. That makes sense. Yeah, both regions. Yeah, the temporoparietal cortex is involved in phonological processing and decoding words, helps with breaking down words into smaller units, sounding them out. And the occipitotemporal cortex, a word form area. Yeah, and the inferior frontal gyrus, articulation and speech production. Yep. So yeah, you're right. It's because it requires more effort. That's why you use the frontal cortex more. Yeah. And you know what? I have found that my younger son is better at managing his emotions than my older son, who has no issues with reading, because I guess he doesn't have as much practice with actually having to put in the effort, because it just comes to him naturally.
You'll also find that, you know, the dyslexics, because of this change in brain, architecture, essentially, are very good at other things. So, you know, like when you're looking at people like there's certain firms of architects, architect firms actually only employ dyslexic architects. That might sound counterintuitive, But you can have somebody check all the numbers, and there's computer programs that check the numbers. But the ability to be able to imagine the entire structure from the outside, and then within, just be able to zoom in on any part of that structure, where this pipe is, where that tap is, where that thing is, and zoom straight out and just any part, zoom in and out and in and out, like you've got a huge 3D map in your head. That is very much a dyslexic person's trait, because, like you said, in order to compensate for the lack of ability for abstract production, we get very, very good at conceptualization. Being able to visualize and being able to kind of build things in your head so that you don't have to write down. Well, also, there's lots of good artists and things like that. Because the conceptualization part is incredible. But so don't write him off, dude. He'll get good at other things. Also, Darwinian intelligence, man. Everything on the planet is just as clever as everything else,
Yeah.
Reading does not mean fuck all.
Yeah. Well, he's getting better at reading too. I mean, like he just had more. He actually had to learn to read. It didn't just come naturally. That's the difference from my experience.
I just listen to everything now anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, me too. I listen to everything now too. Here, so Kuo, do you think the dolphins and whales are better or more adequate keepers of Mother Earth than human beings? And if you don't like to answer simply yes or no, could you comment on the question? We're those of Kuo and are aware of your query, my brother. It cannot be said that those who swim the seas have any capacity to be stewards of the ocean in which they swim. Having no opposable thumbs, they have not created tools to make things that may or may not be negative in their impact on the environment. Consequently, they have never left the state of nature in which they are simply a part of the environment. They do not create difficulties with their environment, for their environment has formed them, and they follow the ways of the environment. Humans, on the other hand, have every capacity to make an impact upon their environment, either as a plunderer or as a steward. For some of your years, your peoples have forgotten that they are part of their environment and that their environment is part of them. So they have turned from being stewards to being plunderers, taking from the earth that which the earth cannot replace, and creating a downward spiral with the careless and thoughtless use of resources which cannot be sustained. It is to humans, then, that the great challenge is offered, and it is those same humans to choose their response to the various bad habits, shall we say, that humans have created in their so-called civilization. Indeed, we find that the shock of awakening to find how cruel they have been, indeed, to their Mother Earth is a stunning one for many who have only gradually awakened to the awareness that they wish to be part of the dance of life on Earth, and not its rapist and its thief. We hope that more and more it will be a challenge gladly met and enthusiastically taken up to find ways to so coexist as part of the dance and part of the good within the environment of planet Earth. We feel that more and more there's a great love in your people's hearts for their Earth Mother, and we find this a very helpful and appropriate emotion, one that greatly aids in the process of polarization towards service to others. Yep.
I love that. And it's true. I think more and more we're coming to this point where the focus is more on Earth, like environmentally, what can we do to turn the tides so we don't have a sixth mass extinction event? More companies are, not to say that it's working very well, but more companies are trying to be in line with environmental practices. There is an attempt to make some laws to hold corporate interests accountable for their handling of pollution, how they store toxins and so on. And then we have a lot of our children who care about the planet naturally, and a lot of young activist groups coming out, and a lot of people stimulated by the conflict in Gaza have been doing earth meditations. I've never seen so many synchronized earth meditation offerings and posts, even by people who up until that point hadn't been thinking about meditation. So it's interesting how, but I'm very happy that slowly but surely people are thinking more about the planet.
Well, this is
Wow.
Quite a graphic. Like, there's people on the bottom of the ocean.
It's,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
so relevant, though,
Yeah. All
that
right.
kind of harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at the pollution and the people in the ocean. I mean,
Yeah,
can't
there's
breathe
like polluted
underwater.
whales. It's like we have a choice.
Yeah.
It's saying we have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And
That is
we're
true.
we're acting out those choices now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, we could always be doing better, but I think we're doing better than many thought we would at this juncture. At this juncture, with all that's going on, it's with all that's going on. I think we're holding up pretty well, and as I was talking about earlier, we still are just ascending towards a more positive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
The Earth, we're not done yet, you know.
So we're getting, well, we're 9 o'clock now. So I just wanted to make sure, Ashley, have you joined the Facebook group? In our
Yes.
chat? Oh, okay.
Yes,
Great.
unity,
In the
the
law of one.
unity, love and light.
Mm-hmm. And then
Yes.
did you
Mhm.
figure out our chat? Because it's a little confusing. I don't know if you know.
So I see.
So if you go to the regular inbox, it won't show up there. It goes, if you go to communities, and then it
Mhm.
shows up in the members. Anyways, so I know the other guys, they talk there a lot. And then there's also the Seattle Law of One. Are you familiar with that one? Seattle.
Yes, I am. I've been meaning to join their group. I watch a lot of their interviews when the Ella research team comes on.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We were just interviewing Jim McCarty on Tuesday. I was there. I didn't ask any questions, but yeah, it's a good group. Especially like on Tuesdays, he has like a really big group, like 28 people. But you know, everyone has a chance to like speak, and you get to hear all sorts of people like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
something to explore.
Okay, for
All-
sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, any final comments before we round up for the night?
No,
Just thank you, and I love the material that you choose.
Oh, well, thank you. I was inspired by you guys. Like Ed was asking me about Atlantis, so I was like, well, we should do ancient civilizations.
would you be able to post in the Law One group the Quo session that was used tonight?
Yeah, well, there were several, but I can at least post the first one.
Okay,
Okay.
because I always like to go back and sometimes look at those during the week, the next week, and then I always forget what the numbers were. I can't remember that stuff, but if I can go back and our Facebook chat, then I can actually see it and read it.
Here, I'll just post all
I'll
of
be
them
able
in
to-
there. There, posted all three.
Awesome.
Oh, great.
Okay. Thank
Ashley's there. Great.
So is anyone staying on after or?
I'm going to
chat off.
head off.
All
I'll
good.
head off, but I'll see you next week.
All
Bye,
right. Well,
everyone.
Good
we're looking
night,
forward to it.
Ashley.
So we leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.
Good night, all you guys. Love you.
Good night, all you guys.
Night.
Bye.
Just trying to get out of the live stream.
I know.
I got in the wrong window here. Okay, end stream. Okay, bye-bye.